Don't look now, but it's an even year, and Joey Logano has just won a fuel mileage race, which bodes well for him, so let's get into it. Coming up next. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing good today. All right, let's get right into it. Joey Logano wins at Vegas. This, of course, coming the previous week where it looked like he was out of the playoffs. Then Alex Bowman, his car failed tech for being underweight, and then that put Joey Logano back into the playoffs. So a huge win for Joey Logano for several reasons. The first being, in 2018 and 2022, Joey Logano also won the Las Vegas race. And guess what else happened in those years? He went on to win the championship because it gave him a significant advantage, in my opinion. And just like logically, like they get to focus not on the next two races to stay in the playoffs because they're already locked into the championship. They can spend the next two races focused on getting good for Phoenix, a track that Penske itself is already good at. Because if you look at the last two championship races, the drivers that took home the championship, not necessarily the win in Blaney's case, but the drivers that took home the championship were, of course, Penske drivers. The win is also his 35th win of all time, which moves him up to 25th all time on the list, one win behind tying Brad Keselowski, who, in my mind, those two are always going to be synonymous with being over there at Penske. But it also moves him above Kurt Busch and Martin Truex Jr. So the interesting thing there for me is you've got, Brad Keselowski, then you've got Joey Logano, then you've got Kurt Busch, all former Penske guys there in just like right in a row on the wins list, and Martin Truex Jr., of course, tied with Kurt Busch as well. I mentioned Penske being good at Phoenix, but this continues Penske's string of being really good in the playoffs, even though nobody talks about him as much as a Hendrick or a Joe Gibbs. Penske, just for whatever reason, has seemed to figure out this playoff system. You don't have to win the most races. You don't have to get talked about the most. You just have to win the right races. And Las Vegas is one of those right races because if you win Vegas, like I was saying, you get the extra weeks to prepare for Phoenix. And, of course, two in a row, Penske has taken home two championships in a row with different drivers. So Penske has figured out this format significantly, but that's not the only thing that people were talking about with Penske. Because for whatever reason, it became a controversy that Ryan Blaney was pushing and helping Joey Logano save fuel there at the end. Now, we've seen this a bunch of times in other races with other drivers doing the exact same thing. But for whatever reason, I guess because it's Joey Logano, a lot of people don't like Joey Logano, I'm guessing, is why this became a big deal. But a lot of fans were upset that Ryan Blaney was helping out his teammate because he wasn't a part of the battle for the win or battle for the lead. He was multiple laps down due to some contact. We're going to talk about that in just a minute as well. But for whatever reason on social media, this became a big deal. And really, I think you can only boil that down to Joey Logano has as many haters as he does fans. So I think it's just one of those Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano situations where it's just a driver that a lot of people don't like. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's a big deal. I just wanted to mention it because I did see a lot of it getting talked about on social media. I did throw a poll question up during the live stream, and it was about 60-20, and then I threw like a funny post in there too. But the vast majority of people didn't think it was a big deal either. In fact, probably the best comment in the live stream was, what's the difference from somebody pushing somebody at Talladega or Daytona and somebody pushing somebody at a different racetrack? I think that's just basically the best way to look at it. And just to put a bow on this, how big was Alex Bowman missing weight last week? How big is that situation now? Because now Joey Logano goes from being out of the playoffs to possible championship favorite, depending on how you're going to score it. Definitely, no matter how you look at it, has to have a massive advantage because he's got two races to prepare for Phoenix, where these other guys have to prepare for the next two races. Logano winning, however, was only part of the story today because the best driver, the best car on the track, but they missed it on strategy, was, of course, Christopher Bell. We're going to talk about him today, although nobody ever talks about Christopher Bell. I do think there is some truth to that, but we're going to talk about him today because he leads 155 laps, wins a stage, finishes second in another stage, maximum stage points as far as that goes, but doesn't get the deal done and dominated this race completely and was running down everybody at the end when inexplicably, at the end of the race, whether he had something worked out with John Hunter Nemechek or John Hunter Nemechek went a different way, or he just misjudged which way John Hunter Nemechek was going to go. John Hunter Nemechek cost him about 3/4 of a second on that particular lap when he was trying to pass him, a Toyota teammate really, when he was trying to pass him. So that was another thing that was sort of surprising as to who it was. But that little bit of holding him up cost him his greatest chance or his best opportunity to pass the 22. He did, of course, get past the 99, who was the leader when they enacted this strategy. But anyway, fastest car on the racetrack. Great day for Christopher Bell, but once again, comes home short of the win with that second place finish. Speaking of that, let's look at the rest of the top 10 and talk about some stuff. 1 and 2, of course, is going to be Joey Logano and Christopher Bell. We've already talked about them, but Daniel Suarez also on a fuel strategy with a great finish there. Started 23rd, ends up 3rd. William Byron, whatever adjustment they made sort of midway through this race, that really woke that car up, and he had a car capable of competing with Christopher Bell. I don't know if he could have got past him, but he definitely was the car closest to catching Christopher Bell on speed. Alex Bowman with a nice 5th place finish. What might have been? What might have been if he was in the playoffs, right? Martin Truex Jr. 6th place, Ross Chastain in 7th, and Denny Hamlin in 8th. And that 8th place finish is a great finish for Denny Hamlin, but it was because of fuel mileage. Once again, the 11 car was off on speed, and that's going to be significant when we get to the points here in just a minute. But it's not been a great playoffs for the 11 or the 45, but we'll save that for a minute. But wanted to mention that right here with the 11 car. John Hunter Nemechek finishing in 9th place. Good run for him. Good run for Legacy. They needed that finish. Of course, that was fuel mileage as well. Chris Buescher finishing in 10th. He is the fastest of the guys that didn't make the playoffs, or he is the best in points of the guys who didn't make the playoffs. Then you've got Kyle Larson, who got the 11th place finish. Didn't have the fastest car, but had a pretty good car. 11th place finish, a little bit lower probably than what they wanted. Bubba Wallace with a 12th place finish. Good run for him. Good run for Kyle Busch coming in 13th here. And great run for Corey LaJoie finishing 14th. So in the trade, he wins this round of the battle between him and Justin Haley. And then Harrison Burton, great run for him in 15th place, even though he's not going to be in that car next season. All right, that was the good race. But of course, for all good races, we must have bad races, so let's take a look at who had a bad race and why. Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott right here. You see them, as well as Tyler Reddick, 35th. Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney, 33rd and 32nd, respectively. And that's because they got involved in a wreck in which you saw Tyler Reddick flip. Now, Ryan Blaney was farther behind that, but he got caught in some of the aftermath damage or whatever you want to call after that. But all of that happened in the same particular incident where Martin Truex Jr. Wasn't going to lift and he wasn't going to give any room because, well, he's earned that right at this point in his career. He's going out and he's not going to give anybody any more space, apparently, is what a lot of people were saying, at least in the Discord. But either way, ended up costing those drivers a great chance and a great opportunity, and it is significantly going to impact the points going forward. And we're going to take a look at that in just a minute, but I wanted to mention one more bad race here because I have something to add to it. And that is your last place finisher, that is Austin Dillon in 37th, where he had a very strange incident with Daniel Hemrick. Daniel Hemrick, normally a really, really clean driver, was really surprised to see him just kind of run through Austin Dillon, and I wondered if something happened previous to that. Was Daniel Hemrick mad? Because I know him and Austin Dillon seem to get along pretty good. I would go as far as to say they're friends, so I waited and I looked for something, and the only thing I could find was from Essentially Sports, who got this quote from Daniel Hemrick. Super unfortunate. We were fighting for every inch and thought it was at the bottom, but he kind of went back top. I tried to get under his left rear, chased me down there. I was fully committed and got in his air. Probably couldn't hit the brake and probably faded off of him. That's the last thing you want to do. Good friend of mine, so I had to make sure he was okay. Not at all how I wanted it to go down. Just very, very unfortunate. So Daniel Hemrick there basically saying that, hey, 100% my fault. I got into him, and Austin Dillon saying he just ran through me. So both accounts are basically the same. But like I said, the only reason this was surprising to me is because Daniel Hemrick is always, to me, has always been a super clean race car driver. So I was wondering if something happened, but appears like he just misjudged it there, and that was that. So nothing there. But at least he admitted that he did misjudge it, and basically ran through him. So that was my good race and my bad race. Milton's bad race was Ty Gibbs. He gave him a 3.0, started 8th, finished 30th. Gibbs ran in the top 10 until he sped on pit road in stage 2, going a lap down while he battled Kyle Larson for the free pass. He spun himself out and never recovered. Verdict, good speed thrown away by 2 self-inflicted errors. And he's got Christopher Bell as his best of the weekend. Started first, finished 2nd. He was on dominant form, fending off brief challengers with strategy he was on. Bell didn't get through lap traffic as efficiently, just coming up short of victory. Verdict, unbeatable everywhere except strategy. All right, so here's the points. Let's finish this thing off. Joey Logano locked into the next round. Christopher Bell plus 42. Kyle Larson plus 35. William Byron is your last man in right now at plus 27, and that is a significant margin with 2 races to go. All he has to do basically is keep his nose clean unless one of these other drivers win. And all of these other drivers below the cut line, yes, they can still point their way in, but this is a significant margin, especially when you're at this point racing the 8 best drivers all season. Denny Hamlin at minus 27. I'm just going to say all these guys are winning it in. Tyler Reddick minus 30. Ryan Blaney minus 47. And Chase Elliott minus 53. So that is huge. Of course, any of these drivers that are currently in, if they have any type of trouble, this can change rapidly. And also it can change rapidly if one of these drivers below them wins a race. So that's just, you know, the beauty or the agony of the playoffs, depending on how you look at it. It creates manufactured drama, but that drama is still drama, and it is still, you know, it's still going to make you tune in, or at least most people tune in. That being said, I still want season-long points. I'm just going to throw that out there because there's going to be a million comments. I want season-long points. I do too, but I'm just saying it does create drama. And finally, here are the manufacturer's points. 1208 for Chevrolet. Ford moves into second place solely at 1160. 1155 for Toyota. All right, that's all I got for you on this one. If you made it this far, I would love to have your subscription. If not, I'll keep making these things. If you got a question, comment, or anything like that, I try to get to as many of them as I can. I still got to get to the ones from last week, so it's going to be a lot of comments being answered here in the next few days. And other than that, if you want to help out the channel, visit the merch store. The link is in the description. And other than that, thanks for your time. Peace.